All right, welcome to another edition of Shh, Mom and Dad Are Talking, where we put the babies to bed and talk about whatever we want. But I got a special guest with me today. I got my man Joey. Say what's up to the people, man.
Hey everyone.
I got Joey because he's so introspective and just an intelligent brother. And I have a topic today that's kind of near and dear to my heart because it's the holiday season and it's Christmas. And I want to start off this episode by sharing a story of something that happened to me. So my son Jameson recently just published a book, Joey. You know that, right?
Mm-hmm.
I showed it to you. And of course I was excited. It's a holiday book. So of course I had to read the book at his school. And you know me, I'm extra with it.
Yeah.
So I bought a Santa Claus costume, put it on, went to the school to read the book to the kids. And they enjoyed it, but they said something funny. They said, "You're not Santa Claus." I said, "Why?" They said, "Well, you're too skinny." And that was kind of a compliment.
Right.
But then right after that, one of the kids said, "You also can't be Santa because your skin isn't white." And it kind of threw me. It's funny, kind of laughing now, but it threw me for a loop because it was a little bit hurtful just to know that we're still dealing with those issues of like colorism and how representation impacts children of color.
Yeah.
So it just had me thinking about that.
Yeah.
And you have some interesting perspective about it. And,
Yeah.
You know, then we'll go back and forth.
Yeah. It really goes to show you how the media can influence perception.
Mm-hmm.
Because I grew up in a household where, for the most part, Santa was black.
Mm-hmm.
Our angel on our tree was black. All the ornaments were black.
Oh, wow.
It's not until I went into the outside world that I kind of saw Santa as a white man. And since we're in America, a country that's majority Caucasian, most of the Santas, most of the elves are white. From my understanding, I know Saint Nick is based off of a historical person, but I don't think Santa Claus itself, a magical figure, has a race, but it's been portrayed as a white man, and usually that's what most kids see growing up. So it was I don't think it was a fault of the children that they believed, because this is what they see growing up. But it is shocking to hear when they actually say it.
And it's the truth, and it's kind of, some people say, well, it's not a big deal. And I want to take it out of the context of just like Santa itself. To me, it was just another representation of how representation in a variety of different areas is so important.
Yeah.
When you talk about media, movies, film, different things like that. And I think children, and even in an educational setting, the curriculum that the kids access.
Yeah.
What type of figures are they always seeing as
Yeah.
heroes or people that created things or did great things for this country or great things for the world? And it seems like, oh, it's silly, it's just Santa.
Yeah.
The other thing we were talking about before we got on here was the idea of, what was it, the Mall of what? Mall of America?
Mall of America, yeah.
And they had their first Black Santa
yeah.
in 2016.
Yeah.
First of all, let that sink in.
Yeah.
The first Black Santa at that particular location in 2016. And interestingly, even though he's been very popular, there's been a lot of flack on social media where people are basically saying that, why is this guy Santa Claus?
Yeah.
Some racist type things.
Yeah. What's really interesting about that is when you have white Santas in predominantly black settings, there's not a fuss because it's what most of us are used to
accustomed
seeing.
to.
But it's when the roles are flipped, it's when an outrage happens. It reminds me of like famous movies or like, famous comic book that's turned to movies, like Star Wars. When there's a character added or who takes the place of a character who's been historically white, it's like such a backlash. And even when people ask for more representation, there's a backlash. So it's just really interesting how, as a minority, we're expected to kind of bend and cave to what's known, but when we ask for a little leeway, people like kind of lose their minds. So
I told you I had to get him on here, and that, like what you said, is so relevant because it's the truth. You'll see why are they letting him play that character, and as if everybody shouldn't somehow, in some fashion, be able to see themselves in the content that they access, whether that's the books they read, the movies they choose to pay for to see, the curriculum that they're learning in the classroom, TV, film, so on and so forth. So it just really, you know, kind of threw me for a loop. And we were also kind of talking a little bit about how in some communities, like an African American community, I remember my mom was very intentional about taking us places where there was a Black Santa.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, when we would go places like malls and things like that where there was a Black Santa, it was generally a smaller mall, and it was a area that was predominantly, just like what you were saying earlier, Black. But when you have this incident where that guy was the Santa Claus and he's in a, just like what you were saying, probably a more diverse setting where everybody is patronizing that mall, people are like, why is this guy in here? I don't want my kid sitting on this Santa's lap taking this picture. But, you know, it just really goes to show, like, I think how important that is, because I was a little thrown back when they said that you couldn't be the Santa because you don't have white skin. And especially, I know that I've heard of some parents specifically say that my kids know, or I tell them that Santa's Black because I work so hard to put food on the table.
That's a common thing among a lot of mainly African Americans. Like, you know, I don't want someone else taking credit, or for my kids to idealize this fictitious character who happens to be white. So it's a really interesting. I just live under the thinking that Santa could be of multiple races. There's not one Santa. And it's tricky because he is human, and humans come in all hues and shapes and colors. So I just, you know, think, you know, Santa can be of any ethnicity, of any race. And I think it's the easiest thing to tell kids. I think it's the parents more so who don't function under that same ideology, who are a little bit more, you know, separate in their thinking.
Yeah, and I think that to wrap this up, it's about being intentional. I know that as a parent, I've got to do better at exposing my son to literature, make sure he can see himself in the content that he accesses, because it goes a very long way as far as kids having self-esteem, being able to shake off negative stereotypes associated with their culture when they know the real. You know, when you only have one side of the story, it's easy to get falsehoods. You know what I'm saying?
I agree.
So, Joey, do you want to tell him any social media, anything, or let him know anything? Or he said he ain't telling y'all nothing.
No, I don't have social media.
But I appreciate you for being on and giving the people your perspective. I always like to lead the people. As always, I see at the top because the bottom is too crowded. Peace. You got to say peace to the people, Joey.
Peace. No.